Okay. Hi all. So I thought this evening we could have a look at a few games of Joseph Henry Blackburne. And for those unfamiliar with Blackburne, Joseph Henry Blackburne, he was born in 1841. Blackburne. Oh, and for those unfamiliar with Blackburne, pardon me, got rid of echo. So, born in 1841, lived until 1924. He was nicknamed, not very friendly nickname was given to him, the Black Death. So he dominated British chess during the latter part of the 19th century. He learned the game relatively late age of 18, became a very strong player and went on to have a professional chess career that spanned over 50 years. According to Wiki, at one point he was the world's second most successful player, with a string of tournament victories behind him, and popularised chess by giving symbols and blindfold displays around the country. One of his legacies is the Blackburne Shilling Gambit. So if you're playing black, you might not have seen this. Knight f3, knight c6. The Blackburne Shilling Gambit is this early knight d4. I guess, how many people haven't seen this? I don't know if you want to let's have a quick look at it anyway. Well, if you haven't seen this, I don't want to embarrass anyone. Knight takes e5 is the idea to give up this pawn. It doesn't have to be taken. And pardon me. Oh dear. What am I doing? Knight d4. Blackburne Shilling Gambit. Why am I thinking the bishops and pre? Oh, great preparation here. The bishop is in pre's in this position. So this is not what I intended. Bishop c4. In fact, eyeing f7. Knight d4. Knight takes e5. This is better. Makes more sense. Pardon me. Queen g5, hitting g2 and the knight. And if knight takes f7, forking the queen and rook, then there's a surprise in queen takes g2, rook f1, check, and the bishop goes in front, and we have knight f3. So that's the Blackburne Shilling Gambit. And apparently he hasn't actually played this gambit himself. For some reason it got his name without him actually playing it. The reason Blackburn caught my attention recently is that I played another gambit which apparently got his name, but he definitely did play this at Hastings, and the gambit is actually in the Scandinavian, so this is far lesser known in the Scandinavian. To play c6 here somehow got his name as well, this weird gambit, as a sort of Blackburn gambit in the Scandinavian. Anyway, I started checking out some of his notable games, and some of them are actually really, really amazing tactically. And a few days later I actually saw someone claiming one of the game positions I had seen was one of the most famous puzzles in chess. I couldn't believe it. I'd only been looking at Blackburn like a couple of days earlier, so I thought, okay, let's have a look at some of his notable games. Some of these are quite famous puzzles that have been shown quite widely. So this is the first one I'd like to show you, is against a no-name opponent. So Blackburn playing black, so e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, and he doesn't play this knight d4, he just plays bishop c5, and it's white that goes a bit crazy here in this position already. Actually, white goes a bit crazy with bishop takes f7. This is played in England 1880, so kind of romantic era chess. Bishop takes f7, and it looks pretty unsound, and it's followed up with knight takes e5 check. So white's given up two pieces, and is okay, it's about to get one of them back because the queen's hitting both of these. If the knight goes back, then queen takes c5. If g6, then queen takes e5, and we seem to be hitting the rook and the bishop. But Blackburn did actually play g6, so it seems to be, why is he doing this? He's going to lose his extra material. So queen takes e5, and in this position he plays d6. So the queen takes on h8, so white is up on material, but the queen is a bit out of position here. So this exchange sacrifice is interesting. Queen h4 was played. Sorry, is there a stream issue that I wasn't aware of? It looked okay to me on Twitch. Okay, sorry about that. Queen h4, and here white is faced with queen takes f2 clearly, or bishop f2. Queen f2 is the more strong one, because then bishop g4 after king d1 is going to be exterminating white. So white castled, and now we get knight f6, and the bishop's got some scope here. c3 to try and construct a centre. A very forcing move now, knight g4, so he's threatening mate on h2. h3, bishop takes f2 check, king h1, and here we reach this very, very interesting puzzle position. So I wonder if you can spot, this is actually a really famous puzzle position. I didn't know how famous, but apparently it's quite famous. So can you guess what black played in this position, if I give you 20 seconds starting from now? So black to play. What would you play as black here? Actually, this is not so easy as I first imagined. There's some moves which just would cost you the game, which look quite natural, but would cost you the game here. So 200 points at stake if you find the right move. If you find the wrong move, minus 200 points. So what would you play as black? Any ideas? Okay, no ideas. No one's mentioned knight e3. Knight e3. I haven't considered knight. You mean there's a couple of people saying knight e3. Not really sure about that. But I haven't. On the other hand, I haven't checked if it's winning with an engine or anything. I haven't checked this. Knight e3. Intriguing. I wouldn't have thought so. What if we just take this? I think we can just take this. If bishop takes, I think we can play rook takes here and mop up black, because we got queen takes h7. And then queen takes here. I don't think this is working. No, it's not knight e3 at all. The move is quite beautiful. Is actually bishop f5, just offering this rook, getting the queen over here. So this is an incredible idea after queen takes a8. Can you spot what black plays here? Well, it does look as though other moves are potentially winning now. It does look as though black's got a very strong position anyway. So I think I'm going to have to show you it. Okay, queen takes h3, and that's very, very forcing. After bishop takes e4, this is mate. So this is actually quite a famous puzzle position. This position here. So black playing bishop f5. Now, if you had fought queen g3, I think this fells. In one respect, it works, but in another it fails miserably because the queen takes here, because that covers here. So the king moves its check, and then hg, and then what are we left with? So bishop f5 is a pretty neat solution here. But in this position, I suspect that there's other winning moves in this position. It looks as though queen g3 is pretty crushing. Again, with the same idea. It looks as though white's been torn apart. The queen's just irrelevant once it's here. But this is pretty neat anyway. This queen takes h3, I thought is pretty neat. So let's have a look at another game. And this is also, it features a famous puzzle position. Kind of famous puzzle position. So e4, Blackburn was white. e5, d4. So gambiting. This is played in Kidderminster, 1863. E takes d4, c3. D takes, bishop c4. d6. So Blackburn plays knight takes c3. He's got a lead in development. Knight c6, knight f3. Knight e5. He takes that. D takes. And this is quite curious because I guess a lot of people will think, well, white's got this standard kind of trap. Again, his opponent's not identified, no name. He plays bishop takes f7 with the idea of trying to win the queen. But what's interesting now for me is the continuation. How to actually win this position quite efficiently. And this is probably good for blitz chess, bullet chess. Bishop g5 check, knight f6. So how would one proceed in this position generally? I wonder, what would you play here in this position with the white pieces? It turns out to be a very, very useful move here. So if I give you 20 seconds here, what would you play as white? Anyone? Any ideas? I can't say that. I mean, queen b3 does look tempting, just to put the queen safely on b3, protecting the bishop. It looks like logical, but we see instead queen h5, which is another way of protecting the bishop and making use of the pin. Queen h5 has got some interesting perks to it compared to queen b3 actually, and we're going to see some of these. So c6, sorry about that. c6, rook d1, queen goes to a5. Now immediately with the queen on a5, actually there's a lateral operation here. After f4, I don't know why that keeps popping up. If e takes here, this would be disaster. I think we just play bishop takes f6 check and we're winning the queen. So e takes f4 is the disaster. So black played queen c5. So already some perks are evident from this queen h5 rather than being on b3. F takes e5. Queen takes e5. And now white castles. h6. And now white ignores this with bishop e8. So he's threatening queen f7 mating. So black parries that with bishop e6. Protecting f7. And now we get rook takes f6. G takes. And can you spot, well, this first part of the combination is quite amusing. There's actually two amusing sequences here, very, very amusing. I don't actually remember seeing this game until recently. It's quite incredible. Can you spot the first sequence? What does white play here if I give you 20 seconds starting from now? Sorry, if you move away from the notation tab, to make these quizzes better. What would you play as white? Make the quizzes harder. If you want to play chess, please just avoid looking at the notation. Okay, any ideas? Alright, as I say, it's not the total end of the combination. There's two lovely combinations. This is the first part. He seems to be quite masterful with his forcing moves. It's rook d7 first to get that f7 square back into focus. So bishop takes d7 is forced. Queen f7 check. The king, though, doesn't go to d8. It wants to survive. If it goes to d8, of course we mate. That's checkmate. So the king goes to d6. And here's where the fun for the second part starts. After queen takes d7 check, king c5, we get bishop e3 check, a king chase, king b4, it will be interesting to consider king c4 maybe in a moment. I think king c... Okay, let's just go with the game continuation. Queen takes b7 check, king a5. And now he actually announced to his opponent a mate in 3. And it is quite interesting. This technical mate in 3 is very, very interesting, I have to say. I believe this is very, very neat if you can calculate this. So what does white play here? If I give you 20 seconds starting from now, white play. What does white play in this position? Okay, have you all seen this mate in 3? Remember, this game was played in 1863. This is quite a major tactician for 1863. I'm not sure about... Actually, bishop c6 might actually be... Bishop c6 might be inadequate here, actually. The first move is b4 check. So b4 check. And the bishop has to take. But it's actually blocks, basically, b4 from the king moving to b4. We see now the second move in this combination. Bishop b6 check, amazingly. Which actually locks out now b6 from the king. So the king can't go to any of these squares. And now queen takes a8 is mate. So that's pretty neat. Pretty neat stuff, this mate in 3, I thought. But I thought the whole game was really quite interesting. Starting from, queen h5. So we have this, like, what probably sometimes some players fall for this trap, but it's interesting the whole continuation of queen h5 and the way it was just continued like this. So f4, very, very aggressive play to sort of get this king chase going. So here, check, b4, very, very neat game, I thought. So I hope you enjoyed that one. So here is another game played in 1871 in Norwich. Again, his opponents are not identified here. So he's playing black in this game. So we see knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5. Castles, knight f6, d3, d6. Solid so far, bit stodgy stuff. And now I think he's fond of this kind of knight maneuver. I've seen this in another game, which actually is in this set of games I'm showing you. But he's fond of this knight maneuver. He would do this as white as well. Getting a knight here is very aggressive. So bishop g5, but actually he doesn't for the moment. He plays c6 now, so the knight's still got a potential function for d5 at some point. Bishop e3, bishop b6, knight c3. Now the knight goes to g6. Queen d2, bishop e6. He doesn't mind the doubled pawns if white takes. White just drops the bishop back. If these pawns get doubled, then clearly we've got some, pressure on the f file when we castle. We've got this rook. That would be nice for f4 as well. So black doesn't mind that at all. Bishop b3, castles. Rook ad1, queen d7. Clearly he's eyeing for bishop takes h3 here. After knight h2, it's too tempting to resist. He plays bishop takes h3. Bishop takes b6 is played. Now the ordinary move a takes b you might expect, but can you guess what Blackburn as black played here? If I give you 20 seconds starting from now. So black to play, what would you play here? Okay, he played bishop takes g2. So if this bishop is not taken, say the bishop goes back. Let's have a quick look at this. Say bishop here. What's the actual dangers? I think actually queen h3 is pretty dangerous, because now we're threatening knight g4, and if knight takes, we've always got queen h1 mate. I don't know what white could do here about this. It seems pretty tricky, to say the least. I don't know, f4 might be a try. So maybe knight h4 here, and we've still got this threat. So even though the queen's, we've got the knight, we've got still knight g4 on the cards. This just might be too dangerous for white. Pretty sure he calculated this well. I don't know if there's anything stronger here. To bishop e3. I assume queen h3. f4. Knight h4. What does white actually do here? Is it convincing enough? Sorry, maybe it's not. Pardon me. If bishop e3, someone's mentioned, has anyone got any better ideas than queen h3? Interesting continuation. I assume this position is quite dangerous. We can take on f1, yes. We can play knight h4. If the rook moved, then knight g4 is dangerous. Right, say we gave white a move like this. Knight g4. What I'm concerned about, well, if knight takes, actually we've got knight f3 check in any case. We can win the queen. So it's not all about, sorry, I was just looking at this, knight takes check, but actually we've got knight f3 on this. So this stops the queen protecting h2. I think this is quite crushing. It looks visually as though it should be crushing now, this position. So anyway, in the game, white played bishop, after bishop takes g2, king takes g2, and we get this knight f4 check, king h1. And now a takes. So black has a piece down. F3. We see the other knight coming into H5. Rook F2. Check. King G1. The queen comes in rather menacingly. D4, and in this position he announced a mate in 2. So can you see what black played in this position for a mate in 2? "20 seconds here. Black to play a mate in 2. Okay, anyone on playtest awake still? Okay, so Queen G2 check. Yes, well on. Queen G2. And then this horrible smothered mate with the 2 knights. Every square is taken by these knights. Wow. Okay, so let's have a look at another game. So it played in Manchester 1863. He was playing black. His opponent's actually got a name this time. Alexander Steinguller. So E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight C6, Bishop C4, stodgy stuff so far. C3, Knight F6, D4, that's taken. C takes, Bishop B4 check, Bishop D2, Bishop takes Knight, F takes D, which he calls a weak move. The other knight should have taken, he says, in his notes. Knight takes D4, white castled, D6, Knight B3. White, the black knight takes that, Queen takes B3, he castles, Rook E1, Knight H5. So he wants to get his queen and knight operating on the king, clearly. E5, Queen G5. So the knight's going to swing into G2. E takes, Knight F4. It doesn't matter about a pawn. He's threatening mate now. And also there's a back row issue already here. Is there? No, I thought there might have been. In this position, actually, maybe white thought there was a back row issue on black. White played bishop takes F7 check here. Now, if rook takes, then we've got a back row issue here for black. But I'm just wondering in this position, I thought there was a back row issue for white. It seems, you know, maybe in this position, I think Queen G3 looks as though it might actually be possible. There's no Knight E2 check here or anything. But anyway, so white played bishop takes F7 check. After King H8, G3. So C takes D, Knight C3. Knight H3 check, King G2. And now this rook, you know, has been activated on this F file. So Queen F6 is now hitting 2 things. And that's not looking too safe for white. But I still found this quite amusing how white was finished off. Bishop D5, Queen takes F2 check. King H1. And it's quite remarkable here. I thought it was a bit more remarkable, to be honest, earlier when I was looking at this. The combination played now. Can you spot it? What does black play? Black to play and win. If I give you 20 seconds here. It's not Bishop G4. Queen is not Queen E2. Sorry, someone's mentioned Queen E2. No, it's an incredible resource. It's Queen G1 check, amazingly. Rook takes G1. Then we see Knight F2 check, King G2. And Bishop H3 happens to be mate here. This rook's covering F3, protecting the knight. Everything's covered. Bishop H3 is mate. I thought that was pretty cute, to be honest. I thought this guy's like Morphy by this stage. I started looking at these notable games. I'm starting to think this guy's like Morphy. And I think one of the things you've got to bear in mind, some players, well, obviously he has got a high profile, just not as high as Morphy and some other attacking players, but he's played apparently in this time, long time ago, he's played thousands and thousands of tournament games. This guy has played thousands and thousands of games, and we're seeing, some of the more notable here, and they are quite brilliant. He is noted for quite a few brilliant games, this guy, Blackburn. So here, okay, so Berlin, Germany, 1881. And his opponent here is Jax Swartz. So let's have a look. E4, he was white. And he's against the French defence. So D4, D5, he takes on D5, a bit dull. Knight C3, Knight F6, Knight F3. It's got a stodgy feel to this position, as though there's no pawn breaks. Bishop D3, C6, both sides castle. And then one of his favourite manoeuvres is revealed again. This Knight E2, just dragging the knight to the king side. And this game is leading to one of his very famous, combinatory puzzles actually, which was mentioned recently on the ECF forum. So Bishop G4, Knight G3, Queen C7, Bishop E3. Knight BD7, Queen D2. There's a build-up here. He doesn't mind the double pawns here because he's saying that this G file is going to be dangerous. Rook FE8, Rook AE1, Knight E4. The Queen drops back, and now Black does, take on F3 because it looks tempting that he can now also try and shred White's king to bits with Knight takes G3. After HG. White has, though, got this H line, potentially. So after Bishop takes G3, White shouldn't take this, because at least it's perpetual or even worse. If takes, we've just got perpetual. Right? So I'm not sure Black can do any better here, because, we're covering these squares with the bishops. So any rook lift, but anyway, he doesn't want that. He just uses this position to play King G2, and that gives him this H file. So is it enough for the sacrificed pawn? Well, Black hasn't got a light square bishop, so this is quite a good asset in this position. But is it enough? Bishop D6, Rook H1. So H7 under fire, Knight F8, Rook H3. He's building up his rooks on the H file. G6, Rook EH1. It looks like logical so far. Rook AD8. This G6 did weaken these dark squares. And we see Bishop G5. The bishop is now not just attacking the rook, but it's going to install itself on F6. This looks quite dangerous. Rook D7. Before doing this Bishop F6, he actually inserts C4. This is putting pressure on the C pawn, but also maybe C5 in the right position might be useful. Just maybe even to get this file back if the bishop drops back. So this is taken, which looks quite dangerous. Bishop takes C4 is pinning this pawn. H5, and now we see Rook H4, B5, the bishop drops back, Knight E6, and it looks as though Black has got this F4 square coming in, and White concedes the F4 square. He sees something very, very beautiful here. White plays what seems to be a ridiculous move in the circumstance. In fact, I think this is harder than trying to test you a little bit later. What would you play here with White in this position? If I gave you 20 seconds here, White to play, what would you play here? Okay, now someone has mentioned the move, but it's the continuation, which is just quite beautiful, really. And this was a puzzle position we're ending up in. After bishop f6, inviting possibly knight f4 check. Now here we have arrived. White to play and win here. What does white play here? 20 seconds starting from now. I hope you've all spotted it. It's a mating net. We have here a mating net with queen takes f4, which weakens h5 actually. So after bishop takes f4, rook takes h5, a rook sack as well. We're going to mate on h8, and there's no way black can avoid this. After g takes, rook takes, there's no checks or anything. Black's getting mated here. If he moves his king, it doesn't change the picture. It's still mate. So that was quite cute, I thought. This invitation for knight f4 check. Quite a cute one. I hope you'll agree. So here is another interesting game against someone called Mr. L for some reason. In 1886, it was the Championship British Chess Club. In 1886. So again, we've got some notes by Blackburn himself here. He's playing white. So far we got this Evans Gambit now. B4. Constructing the centre quickly. D4. Takes bishop B6. Knight C3. Knight A5. Bishop G5. And I think black's position is a little bit suspect already. A little bit on the suspect side. Knight e7. In his notes actually indicates f6 is the more usual move. Theory at the time, 1886. So we see knight e7. Knight d5, just leaving this bishop for the moment. We're putting more pressure here. f6. And now, you know, he takes on f6, so he's renewing his threat on e7, ignoring this again. G takes, knight takes f6, king f8. Now knight g5, he's offering that c4 bishop, which is taken. Queen f3. So there's some double check opportunities now. Knight d2. And he indicates here, this move was recommended by Steinitz and Professor Waite. But as we will see, as will be seen, it loses. He reckoned here knight f5 gives black the better game. But we get instead this knight d2. Okay, so knight f takes h7. Double check. King e8. Queen f7 check, king d7, knight f6 check, king c6. Now the king's going to potentially escape over here now. So rook ab1 cuts the king from b5. So we're threatening now quite nasty stuff. In fact, white's threat seems to be queen d5 check. I don't want to ruin any thing, but at the moment queen d5 is going to be mating because the king hasn't got c5. So black took on d4. That gives the king c5. Do you agree? Because if queen d5, you know, knight d5 ed, the king's got c5, correct? Okay, so what does white play here? He just plays rook fc1 check, and after bishop c5 we've got the same idea, which I've just ruined. Sorry. Sorry, white, yeah. Just plays queen d5 check here. And we've got the same idea. After knight takes, e takes. In my big mouth. Sorry, e takes d is check. It was a fun game anyway. Another fun chase. What are these pieces still doing there? They should have been developed. Sorry about that one. Suspense ruined. Still got a couple more to go, at least. This one against Henry Bird. So Bird plays his Bird's opening. So he's actually black against the Bird, playing the Bird's opening against him. So F4. Henry Edward Bird. So E5, a gambit against the Bird, why not? D6, ED, bishop takes, knight F3. And in this position, I really like G5 in this position. This From's gambit. From gambit. So knight F6 was played instead, D4. Knight G4, bishop G5. F6, bishop H4. G5, the bishop goes back to F2. He takes on F2, king takes. He plays G4 now. Knight H4. F5, hitting the knight. G3. Carries on aggressively with F4. He's going to open up this F file, isn't he? He's going to tear this F file to pieces. Queen D3. Black castles. Check. And his notes indicate Mr. Bird and I have played many games at this opening, and many followed the same lines. Really? I prefer black, though, if I was playing this. King H8. King G1. Queen F6. It looks really dangerous for white here. Bishop G2. And now there is a temptation to take on here, but he reckons this was stronger to play F takes G here. Because after HG, check, King H2. Can you guess what black played here, which finished white off? So black to play and win in this position. Yeah, the problem is white's defending G3, so that's a bit of a nuisance defence, and it's just getting rid of these nuisance, irritating defences. Can be done, well, in this position it can be done with Rook F3. It just turns out that it doesn't have to be Queen G3 mating actually here. You know, Knight takes is Bishop takes G3 as mate. So what does white actually do here? He resigns here. G3 is just, yeah, bit of a crush, that one, of the Bird's opening. I guess it was notable because it was Bird playing the Bird's opening, and not particularly long game. 17 moves. Now here is one more. This is a heavy, much heavier game than any we've seen tonight, but it's more important. It was important for him to beat this guy, because this guy he was playing was Emmanuel Lasker. He's got a terrible record against Lasker, but there were 2 times he did have a bit of luck against Lasker, and this is one of them. And it's a very fine attacking game, actually. It was played in 1899. The younger generation, the Laskers represented the younger generation, and they did overtake him later, but you know, this game is very interesting. E4, E5, so Blackburn playing white against Lasker, a former world champion. So knight F3, knight C6, bishop B5, D6, D4, bishop D7. He invites the closing of the centre. Bishop D3, bishop E7. Knight C3, knight F6. Knight E2, C6, C4. Okay, it's closed position. So both sides manoeuvring for a moment. B5, quite aggressive there, B4. Knight goes to B7. A strange way of playing the position, trying to undermine white's centre. D takes, bishop takes C6. C takes, bishop B5. A4, bishop drops back. Castles, G6. And this is interesting already. G6. What is he doing with G6? He's not castling. What's happening here? H3. He's playing H5. He's playing like a mad hacker now. What is this h5 business? Bishop e3. a5. He wants that c5 square for his knight as well. b5. Rook c8. Rook c1. Knight c5. Knight d2. He carries on now aggressively. h4. The knight goes back. So how would you get some attack going here if you had the black pieces? What would you play here? I mean, there's a move crying out to me. Actually, I'm going to show you. It's not a puzzle or anything. So g5. He just wants to open up this line against the king. Is it calculated? You know, maybe not all the way through. Bishop takes g5. Rook g8. So Lasker may be thinking he's going to consolidate this. He's going to just put his bishop in front of the king and be material up. Even if he loses one pawn, so he's still a pawn up after bishop g3. Okay, so what we see now after bishop e6, how does black actually justify this? Well, he's got loads of pressure here. Rook e1, knight g4 is a nice move actually, because as we see now, it supports bishop g5. We're hitting the queen side resources. The rook moves. Now rook h8. Knight c3. Bishop f4. That also gives the queen scope to come in now. Knight d5. The queen does come in. f3. And this looks like white is now officially in trouble, because we see a startling move here after f3. Yeah, I think this is a good combinatory move. So what does black play in this position if I gave you 20 seconds starting from now? Anyone? So black's play here. There's some tactical liabilities in white's positioning. Right. Any ideas? Okay, there's one idea presented. That's good. 94. No, not. Okay, I'll show you. So rook h1 check. It draws the king. It's a drag and drop tactic. Draws the king to where we can theoretically fork the king and queen. But first we have to remove this bishop. So now bishop takes g3. So we're threatening now knight f2. And there's no time, is there, to take the knight. In the game, actually, Lasker invited the loss of the queen with knight takes g3. But before we go there, if we have a look at f takes g here, I think this is hopeless because of the check. And here we've got bishop f2, and that's mate. So the queen is lost. Lasker played knight takes g3, having to allow this horrible fork. But the game actually continued for quite a bit, actually. I'll just show you the rest of the game. So he took the queen, knight f5, because there's a horrible threat here actually, on d6. Bishop takes, e takes, queen d2. Where else does the knight go? The knight is kind of stranded as well. This is a very big knight on d5. So it's actually, you know, it's not the woods, not out of the woods. Rook e takes d1, queen takes c2. I don't know why Lasker was playing on actually. Is it because of these pawns? I think these pawns gave him a bit of confidence that they're quite dangerous. Queen takes f5, knight b6. Rook move to d8. Knight c4. Knight b7. Knight e3. Queen f4. King f2. Queen takes a4. Black is material up. Why didn't Lasker resign earlier? Rook c7. Knight c5. Rook h1. He's actually threatening though a mate. So this is quite scary now. What's happening here? Black's material up. Okay. What he does now is rook d7. So he's given himself the e7 square. If there's a check, he can play king e7. We see instead check here, king e7, and the other rook joins. And just queen d4 here. Now finally white resigned. The knight is going to be won here. This check is harmless, king f6. If king e2, check, we're winning this knight. So finally Lasker resigned. Anyway, it was a great win against someone obviously destined to become world champion, Emmanuel Lasker. So here is the last game, which I'm not sure is that interesting, but let's go for it anyway. So Blackburn against Samuel Lipschutz in the USA Congress, New York, 1889. So he did get around a bit. And we've got some of his notes as well. So d4 from Blackburn. d5, c4, e6. So he's quite versatile in his openings. Playing very positional opening here. Strangely. So bishop b7, rook c1, knight b7. He took on d5, bishop d3. Both sides castle, knight e4. He describes this as a good move. It opens up the game and the black knight cannot be taken with impunity. So bishop f4, we see c5, queen e2, f5. This creates a weakness on e6. He reckons that knight df6 was probably better. So we see f5, rook fd1, c4. That releases the tension a little bit, surely, in the position. Bishop takes, f takes, knight e5, knight f6. And then we see a very aggressive move, g4, queen e8, queen f1, bishop d6, h3, rook d8, queen g2, b5. And he's got this knight maneuver now. He likes this knight maneuver to g3. White's only chance is to attack on the king side to prevent the advance of the dangerous pawns on the queen side, he notes. Knight d7, he took that off, rook takes, knight e2, bishop takes, knight takes, rook df7, g5, and I've just realised this actually, sorry, pardon me, we're going to see another fantastic combination pretty soon in this game, which is startling. Rook f5, king h1, a5, rook g1. This is just the build up. Bishop c8, queen g3. The beginning of a combination, he reckons this is the beginning of the combination, tempting black to attack the weak pawns on the queen side. So queen a4, and he writes, he yields to the temptation to attack a2. So we see b3, it really gets the queen completely distracted over here. C takes, a takes, queen takes b3. Rook c7, a rook established on the 7th rank, is often as good as a passed pawn, he reckons. a4, unconscious of their doom, the little victims play. I don't know, when he said these things, he was drinking a bit too much. He was known as a drinker. I don't know these quotations, if he was, what state he was in. They're quite interesting. So at this stage, the adjournment occurred, and white was called on to make his sealed move. Before play was resumed, Lipschutz was asked how his game stood. He has a little bit of attack, he answered, but my two passed pawns must win, a view that was endorsed by Steinitz. On opening the envelope and finding my move g6, he still thought himself safe. And I won't spoil the rest. So we'll see g6. Black played h6. And here is a fantastic combination. Can you guess what white played in this position? I think it's actually quite remarkable. So 1889, can you imagine this? This guy, tactical genius. 1889, what does white play in this position? I'll have to give you 20 seconds here. I bet, I don't think anyone should be able to find the combination that easily. The whole combination is difficult to see. I think you'll be able to find the first move, but can you see the whole combination here? Okay, let's go for it now. He plays rook takes g7 check. After king takes. Well, if king h8, let's just briefly have a quick look at this. King h8. Then check. Here, g7 is strong in this position. If rook g5, we can win lots of material. We take here and we play knight e6, check. And then we're mating on them like this. So that's no good. So it's taken. And now what does white play in this position? So white's play here. I'll give you 20 seconds again. Okay. It's knight h5 check, so he's giving himself access to the c7 square. Where can the king go? Well, the rook took, and we see queen c7 check. And it's very, very cruel here, this position. It's so cruel, it's unbelievably cruel. One of the cruelest I've seen for a while, that if the king steps back, of course the king would get mated to queen h7. Or here, just queen h7. But even if the king stepped here, it's like in the game, there's punishment here with an exceptionally cruel move in the form of queen d6 check. And now, you know, if king g... Well, black had to resign. If king g7, queen e7 is mating because of that h7 square. We step back, we're mating on h7. And if bishop e6, it's no better because queen takes f8. And we're still mating. It's really, really cruel, the whole thing. This pawn is a real killer in the position. So that was another fine combination. This idea here. And this was after an adjournment even. So rook takes g7 check. Black thought he was safe. No. This combination is a knockout. I hope you enjoyed that set of games. I'm going to put it on YouTube. Maybe comments or questions there if you want to carry on analysing these during the week. Okay, thanks very much. See you next week at the usual time. So Tuesday is the usual time, 9 o'clock London time for these broadcasts. Thanks very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Comments or questions on YouTube.